Hi, guys, and welcome to the 10th episode of the Women in Nautica podcast. I'm your host, Anna Chalic, and Women in Nautica founder, the leading inclusivity initiative in the boating industry. Today, on this episode, I have with me Liz Schmidt from Women Offshore. Liz, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you for being on air with us. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm excited to talk with you today about some great issues, and I'm looking forward to being more a part of Women in Nautica.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to hear more about the work that you do in general, but maybe to give first an initial scope to the listeners, can you tell a bit more about yourself, so about your education and how it eventually led you up to the position you're currently in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have really created a very cool little professional life for myself. So I grew up in Minnesota, which is the land of 10,000 lakes, and grew up on the water and boating, particularly recreational boating, has always been part of my life. And my family is actually in the marine industry. And so I've always grown up with a really close tie to that industry. I went to the University of Minnesota in Duluth, Minnesota, and graduated with a dual degree in environmental studies and communication. And upon leaving college, I knew that I wanted to help people, and I wasn't quite sure what that was going to look like. But I started my career in nonprofit. I worked for two large nonprofits here in the US, the Red Cross and the YMCA. And I worked for both of those organizations at both the national level and then the local level in the city. So I got a really good insight to working in nonprofit and to these organizations, and then doing what I wanted to do was help people. And then I had an opportunity because I always had this fascination with the marine industry and was something that it was always a love of mine. And I got an opportunity to launch myself into the marine industry and particularly into yachting. So I took my background working as a kid and as a high school student, as a college student on boats and around the water, and used that and started working in the yachting industry. And I later became a partner, which I still am, in a partner in a company called Shipyard Supply USA, and we manufacture mooring products for yachts. And we do that all in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, where I currently live. And so that really launched me into the industry. I got some great opportunities to get on a lot of really cool yachts, a lot of really big yachts, and then as well as some opportunities to actually work on board yachts through the company, meeting captains and meeting crew. And so getting that on deck experience, which is really valuable, I think. And then I got an opportunity to work for Women Offshore. They actually found me. They were like, "You are a unicorn. You are somebody that has nonprofit experience. You've got maritime experience, and we want you to come work for us." And I was like, okay, I have this business, not really looking, but I can help people, I can help women. And so I dove right in about a year ago, and I'm the executive director of Women Offshore. And we are an advocacy organization for women in maritime. And we focus on workforce development for women across all sectors of the industry, to not only educate women to enter into the industry, but once they're in the industry, to keep them and their institutional knowledge that they have of maritime, whether that's commercial, recreational, or yachting, even the fishing industry, is to say there's a space for you as your professional life evolves and your personal life evolves. So, like I said, I've been at Women Offshore for a little over a year and just having a blast with all the work that we are currently working on and really enjoying it.
Liz, you're a jack of all trades, as one can say. And also, when I was looking at your education, I also saw that you have a merchant mariner credential. For all of
I
us who
do.
don't know what that is, can you explain a bit?
Yeah, so the MMC, or the Merchant Mariner Credential, is the U.S. Coast Guard Captain's License. And so throughout one of the goals I wanted to have by the time I turned 30 was to have my captain's license. And so that included having sea time and the experience, and then of course taking the course and passing the test and that sort of thing. So that was a goal of mine that I did achieve. And then I did work under my license for a short period of time as a captain. I worked in Fort Lauderdale on a tour boat, giving tours of all the beautiful houses and yachts and things in my local waterways. So it's a really great experience, and it's really something that I felt like was good to have. Take the course, have the licensure, go through the process, because I work with a lot of women now at Women Offshore who are going through the process of getting their Merchant Mariner credential. And so having done it, I can really help support them with some of the best ways to go about it.
Nice. Congratulations. I think it's a great goal to achieve, especially if you're in this
Yeah,
industry. I think it's a cool, let's
absolutely.
say, tool to have in our toolkit. And I also
Yeah.
saw that you did work with social media influencing, actually, that this was your role in one of the jobs.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts of it? I think that maybe social media influencing nowadays can have a negative note to it, but I think within our industry, it's quite different. So, can you share your experience with this?
Yeah, absolutely. That was quite a few years ago when social media was just really starting to take off on LinkedIn, and a local organization, a maritime organization, was looking for somebody to help them kind of navigate their social media presence and what they should post, how they should post, what their branding should be, and that sort of thing. And so with my love of being on the water and my knowledge of the area, I took on the challenge. And social media is so part of our lives, and it's such a great way to advocate. It's such a great way to spread the word about the work that you're doing. And there can be a negative connotation, and I know there's a lot of back and forth on the value of it, but I think it's something that's not going away. And in this industry, in marine industry and in yachting, recreational boating, all of those sectors, it's something that if you fight it, you're just going to get left behind. And so we at Women Offshore have a pretty large social media presence, online presence. We work with influencers, and it's really important, I think, to do that, to share positive, uplifting, and the work that women are doing around the world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. At least we can take the opportunity to showcase all the positives and the good
Hmm.
experience and not to use social media, let's say, in a mainstream way, but rather than in an educational one, which benefits to a lot of people nowadays. And going back to
Yeah,
Women Offshore,
absolutely.
which are all the segments which you're representing? So we already spoke about this a bit, but some listeners maybe don't know what this commercial segment really comprises. So can you give us a bit of a segmentation of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Women Offshore, like I said, we focus on the broad maritime industry, which is so broad, so big. But the commercial side of it is the offshore shipping, offshore drilling, offshore energy, subsea work. It could be oceanography work. So that's kind of the main sector that we look at when we're talking about the commercial side of the industry. So we work with shipping companies and offshore energy companies from all over the world. We work with not only ships, but also rigs. So drilling rigs from all over the world. There's, of course, women working on all of those. And so we work to advocate. So that is the commercial side when we talk about that with regard to women offshore.
That must be a demanding job. I mean, working on a drilling platform as a woman, what are some of the most common experiences which you hear from your members, or maybe some of the struggles, if you can share some?
Yeah, absolutely. So it absolutely is. It's demanding. It's a grueling job for men and women, but particularly when we talk about women working on the oil rigs, a lot of them share experiences that they will get to the rig, and a lot of times they will be the first and maybe the only woman on board the ship or the rig. And so they will get helicoptered out to the rig, they get on board, and all of a sudden all the other workers are like staring at them. And the men are not necessarily aware, obviously, because no one's going to be like, oh, a woman's coming, but they will not be aware, and then they'll be like nervous to talk to them or how to interact with them. And so we find a lot of women share stories of isolation because the men are not really sure how to bond with their new employee or their new coworker, sorry, their new coworker who's a woman. And they're not sure how to relate with them, or we hear a lot of times that the men are not convinced that the woman knows how to do her job. And so there's a lot of proving that she'll have to do as she is not only isolated away from her family, not a whole lot of technology, and now her coworkers may not be trusting that she can do her work. And so we do find a lot of those types of stories from women. We find stories of women who are being unsure about their safety. Luckily, over the past few years, there's been a lot of work done by the companies to help prevent that, but we still find that women are concerned for their safety and the safety on the rigs. And we really work to learn these stories and then to go back to these companies that we've built relationships with and say, hey, this is what's happening on your ships. And if you're working to get more women on your rigs, and also we use rigs and ships like interchangeably. So,
Mhm.
but if you're getting more women on your rigs, these are the lived experiences of the women that are out there that they might not be comfortable telling the employers. And we go to share those stories.
That's very noble representing what you're doing, and I think it's very valuable because, yeah, in the end, it all comes down to a communication problem, but
Hmm.
it's very understandable that it can be discouraging and also scary for women to step up in such a surrounding which is not welcoming from day one, and especially if you're in the middle of nowhere with zero connection to your previous life and people you know, it can be intimidating, but you're
Yeah.
doing an amazing job in that segment.
Yeah, thank you. And we definitely are working to ensure that the workforce development part is there, right? And so that's the piece we always work with the companies, especially here in the US under our current administration. There's been lots of changes with DEI and illegal DEI. I say that in quotes. And so we really work to tell these companies like, hey, if you are not a welcoming place, just period, like people don't want to work for you. And women make up half the population, and that's half your workforce that you are basically pushing out by not being a supportive and a safe environment for half the population who could potentially be great workers for you.
Yeah, and that's what I think companies still need to raise awareness about that
Hmm.
it's not that the women could maybe just fill gaps. Women are the ones who could actually drive the change and
Right.
boost forward everything that currently
Hmm.
exists in different companies.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it will take time as anything.
It will.
And you also
It will.
mentioned before that within Women Offshore, you're also working on the retention of women in the maritime sector.
Hmm.
So how are you doing that
Yes.
precisely, if you can let us know?
Yeah, so retention is a big deal because, you have somebody that, from two sides, right? From the personal growth and professional growth of the individual, and then from the company side. So you have the individual who has put in a lot of time, effort, and energy, money, and resources into getting themselves ready and educated to go offshore or to work in that career. And then they get there and they realize that maybe they feel unsafe, maybe the conditions aren't, what they need to be successful in their career. And then we see it from the company side where the company has put a lot of time, effort, and energy into hiring this person. And then that person goes and they leave the industry. And so with retention, we're really working to say, okay, if it's not conducive for you to work offshore, you still have all of this knowledge and skill. There are so many shoreside support roles that you can fill by staying in the industry, using your knowledge, the language, so to speak, of maritime. And so we help women. And it's interesting because the stories I hear from women who have worked offshore and come shoreside are, oh, I was told my skills won't transfer. I was told that what I was doing offshore, there's no skills that transfer that to onshore. And that is so not true, right? There are these skills, maybe you're not doing the exact job you were doing offshore, but those skills and those soft skills and the attitudes that you've developed by doing that job are absolutely transferable onshore. And so that's the big pep talk that I end up giving women quite often is the transformation of skills. And I think men kind of get that already. And I don't know if it's learned behavior or if it's just personalities and the difference between men and women, right? But men tend to just be like, oh, yeah, I can, and this is an age-old conversation. Oh, I can just do that job, right? And they just apply for it and they get it. And women were like, I don't meet all those criteria, so I'm not even going to try. And so really maintaining that retention is what's going to grow more women in the industry. More women rise up and then into leadership roles. More younger women in the industry will see that and say, "Hey, I can do that," and enter into the industry. So it creates that pipeline, so to speak.
Indeed, and it's a technical industry, and willingly or unwillingly, you will have some knowledge that's going to transfer. I mean, everything that's quite
Mhm.
technical on board is definitely going to serve you onshore as well.
Absolutely. And in the yachting side, I actually spoke to a chief stewardess a few months ago who said that she was looking to move to shoreside and she was told, oh, cleaning toilets and making beds aren't going to transfer. And so she's like, I'm really stuck trying to find a job. And I said, you are an operations manager. You are an HR manager. Like you have built all of these skills by being a chief stewardess on a boat that absolutely transfer over into, shoreside roles and especially within the industry. And so I gave her this little pep talk and I think she left the conversation a little bit more inspired than when we started.
That's so nice to hear. And I also think that your mentorship program is something that's also very much helping with the retention part, is it?
Absolutely, absolutely. We do. We have a global mentorship program. And I would encourage anybody listening who would like to be a part of it, just go to our website at womenoffshore.org, check it out. We match our mentors and mentees. We do personalized matching. So we try to connect people who are in similar regions, similar jobs, and then you fill out some information about yourself and what you're looking to gain out of the mentorship and then you're matched with an individual. We use a formalized mentorship program. So there's actually goal setting and it's actually tracked. We're not just kind of like pairing people off and then saying, okay, go have some great conversations. It's actually formalized. Our mentors are all individuals, so women who have been, tenured in the industry. And they also do receive a little bit of training. So they receive training on how to be a good mentor, how to listen, and how to have some sensitive conversations that may come up. And I absolutely agree with you that it is helping with retention. And so we are working with our mentors to also help bring in more mentees from their circles and to help spread the mentorship program across other sectors in the industry. And so we have a lot of women right now who are in the commercial side in our mentorship program, but we know that other parts of our industry need mentors and mentees need mentors and definitely working on expanding that program. And that's been a goal for this year for our organization is to expand the program and to create more awareness of the need for that.
Cool. So no matter if you're the mentor or the mentee, I think both sides are having a great time in this process.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nice.
Definitely.
Nice.
Definitely.
And how does all of this wrap up to the conference you're hosting in Texas? Can you tell us a bit more about the concept? What are
Yeah.
the topics and who's it for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our annual Women Offshore Conference October 9th and 10th, and it will be in Houston, Texas, right downtown. And it's a 2-day event. And this is for women in the industry across all sectors. So we really work to focus our keynote speakers as well as our panel discussions on a variety of topics so that any woman in the industry, whether you're working offshore, onshore, you'll find relevance in it. We have keynote speakers from some amazing women who have worked in the science field offshore, who have worked in the commercial and cruise ship side offshore and sharing their experiences. We also have a keynote speaker who's worked on an oil rig. And then, in addition to that, we have some great panel discussions that talk about some issues within our industry to help with professional growth. So, we have some panel discussions on social media and branding. And so, particular with your brand, which is a big topic right now, is having your brand and showcasing your brand online. So, we've got some great influencers who are going to be on that panel. We also are having a panel about the generational gap. So, we have the baby boomer generation all the way, to the Gen Z, Gen Y, who are currently working all together. And it's probably the first time, I'm sure, in history that we've had such a difference in generations because of technology and social media and all of that. And so we have a panel discussion on working together and the challenges, but the successes of working together in such that span of generations. We also have panels on other professional development and personal growth topics. And so this is for, like I said, this is for women at all parts of their career. This is for women who are seeking to get into the industry. We have employers there. We have unions that come to the conference. And so we've actually had women get jobs. I just learned recently from one of our sponsors that she came up to them and I was like, I've always wanted to work for your cruise line. I really, would love to. I just graduated. She went to the Merchant Maritime Academy and she's like, I would just love that. And they stayed in contact. And she applied, did her whole interviews, and now she's starting on board that cruise ship as a third mate. I believe she's already started. And so she was able to get her dream job or the start to her dream job. And she's somebody that could work her way up and become a captain of that cruise ship one day, or of that cruise line, become a captain in that line. So people who are job seeking or looking to get in the industry, this conference is really for the wide gamut of women in the industry.
I love it. I think I have nothing left to say except that I really need to book my tickets to Houston in October.
I know you should absolutely come. It would be great to have you there.
Yeah,
Definitely.
with all the content that you mentioned, and from this vast array of professional to business and to private topics for personal growth, I think we're really covering everything there needs to be covered.
Yeah, we try to, we try to make sure that the information is something that women can take away with them and utilize in their careers and in their career growth. Absolutely.
Yeah, indeed, because that's at the end what everyone is looking for, because there's so much information around us already. We really want to have something that can be used for either our personal or business growth in
Absolutely.
any opportunity. And
Definitely.
now I'm going to divert to another topic. So, within your work experience, you also had some experience with boat clubs. And what we
Yeah.
recently see is that the private ownership of boats in the recreational boating segment is slowly decreasing. So, do
Mhm.
you see boat clubs being a trend? That's something that's increasing, also something we see in the future. What's your take on this?
Definitely. So, absolutely. I had an opportunity to work for a boat club here in the US, and it was really my first exposure to a boat club. I had worked in the boat rental area where, you take the boat out for a day, you rent it, and have done that quite often personally as well. But the boat club, I really do see that as a growing trend or actually something that's going to stay within our industry. I think it's a way for access to the recreational boating life. And that's one thing that I've always been a champion of is access to the industry. And I think that one of the ways that the recreational boating industry is going to stay strong and boating as an activity is going to continue throughout throughout the lives is through access. And so people need to have affordable and easy options to get into boating. And I think the boat clubs really do offer a great way to do that. People are able to take a boat, have training on how to operate the boat, have dockside crew to help them with docking when they come in or leave the marinas. And some of the clubs, have opportunities for people to rent boats all over the world. And I think that's very cool as somebody who's had an opportunity to boat in Europe and in some really cool places, having that opportunity to take boating with you on vacation, I think is a really cool thing. And so I do see boat clubs as being a great way for people to gain access to test out boating and a way for them to say, yes, this is absolutely for me. I want to build a lifestyle around this activity. Or, oh, we thought we were going to use the boat a lot. We were not really using it as much as we thought. Maybe this isn't an activity for us. So it's a great way for people to test it out and to use and be a boater.
And where do you see sustainability taking a part in all of these grand scheme of things?
Yeah, so I think that the sustainability in the marine industry has really come to light in the past few years. I think manufacturers are knowing that if you are a boater, you are interested in preserving the places that we boat in, right? And there's an importance to that. So, as a boater, you go out on the lake, the river, the canal, you go boating for lots of reasons. And a lot of that, I think we can all agree as boaters, is to see wildlife and to see these beautiful places and to take part in some of these really cool outdoor experiences. And so the industry has really, I applaud what the industry has done. It's a start. I think that there has been some great strides in the work. I know at the end of the day, boating, fiberglass, those things are not very good for the environment. There's the conversations about the yachts that are very sustainable in terms of using sustainable products on board, but then at the end of the day, they're burning, tens of thousands of gallons of fuel and that sort of thing. And so we still have some work to do, but it's really promising to see that the industry, as in the recreational and the yachting side, as well as in the commercial side, are really looking towards alternative fuel sources, are looking towards bottom paints that make their boats more fuel efficient. So even though they're still burning fossil fuels, we're doing it efficiently. And I think in the recreational side, really making sure that we're using sustainable materials and starting to look at other sustainable ways to power vessels. I love at the boat shows to see the options with electric motors and how we've really seen, especially in the outboard market, how electric engines are really starting to become something that we'll start to see a lot more mainstream. And just like in the electric car world, we'll have to update our infrastructure in the marinas and that sort of thing. But all of that's going to come as people start using those and we start seeing the demand for it. And so the other thing that I like to see, especially in the yachting side, is as our yacht owners are starting to be that millennial generation, we're starting to see millennials get to the point where they can purchase yachts, is they're kind of demanding that from builders. And they're saying, I need this vessel to be more energy efficient. I would like it to be, powered on alternative fuel sources or potentially battery powered or electric where possible. And so we're starting to see that demand from those vessel builders and those vessel owners. And so I think those are the drives of change that we're going to see. So we still have a ways to go and we still have a lot of education to do, but I'm seeing some good strides in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And also what you said, client is king in the end. So
Yeah.
really, if the client in the example which you mentioned, the millennial request for a more energy efficient vessel or something that's more like a sustainable solution on the boat, then definitely that's one of the many ways we can do to just push sustainability within the industry forward.
Yep. Yep.
And are
Absolutely.
you a boater yourself?
I am, yes, absolutely. I have been boating my whole life. I had my first boat when I was 12 years old. I had a 13-foot Boston Whaler Super Sport. Loved that boat to death and have grown up into my adult life with boats at various points in my life. I've owned boats myself and always taken opportunity to get on the water. My family, we are all boaters, and so we take opportunities to boat together. I mentioned I've gotten opportunities to do some great boating in Europe, and so we've done some canal boating. So we rent or charter canal boats and drive them ourselves and crew them ourselves and have such a blast. I have gone to some really, really cool spots in Europe that not very many Americans would go to or know about because of being on the canals and canal boating, and some places that I love in the world to have been exposed to is because of canal boating. So yes, I am absolutely a boater. It is in my blood and it's something that I really get exciting to talk about.
That's such a cool experience. I must admit, I haven't done canal boating myself. So that's a challenge you just put in front of me that I need to take upon.
Absolutely. You have to do it. You are in like a great location to check out some amazing canal boating. And so, yes, you definitely, I challenge you, Anna, to do it because it's a really inexpensive way to travel and see the countrysides of Europe, especially France. I've seen some amazing places in France and Germany and Italy. I'm actually going to Venice in a few weeks to boat in the Venice Lagoon and all of that. So I've only ever been to Venice. I've been twice and they have been by boat both times. So it's really cool to say that and to also participate and do that.
Amazing. Love to hear that.
Yeah.
And where can people follow you online and where can people follow Women Offshore online?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Women Offshore, you can follow us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We are most active, and so you can follow us at Women Offshore. We also do have a Facebook group that is a private Facebook group that you can absolutely join, and you can get some more insight into getting into the industry. There's a question answer section on the Facebook page, so definitely follow us there. And then you can follow me on Instagram as well as LinkedIn. My handle is Liz C, Lizzsea 1789. You can check out all my adventures and follow my travels throughout my canal trips and all the fall shows that I'll be running around the world attending to coming up in a few weeks.
Amazing. And with this, we're slowly wrapping up today's episode. When it comes to Women in Nautica, the early bird tickets are still live on Entru, and you can find them in the link in our bio on Instagram. And regular bird will be available from the 24th of July. And for everything else, follow us on Instagram, which is WIN_Women in Nautica. And on LinkedIn, it's simply Women in Nautica. Liz, thank you for today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in Amsterdam this year.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited for the WIN conference and to see you as well. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks.